Hello, and welcome to the Collaboration Conversation, a listener-supported video podcast where Christian artists, entrepreneurs, and friends share about their upcoming projects and how they are using the gifts and talents that God has given them. This podcast is made possible only by generous listeners like you, and we are so incredibly grateful to our supporters. If you would like to sponsor an episode, you can head over to thecollaborationconversation.org and click on Sponsor an Episode, or to sponsor our ministry project Brickworks, head over to projectbrickworks.org. Today, we are the special guest. It's you and me.
Yay. These are always so fun.
These are just so relaxed. There's just like a sigh of relief. And it's like, no, we love having guests. Please don't get us wrong. It's just, there's a lot of pressure.
Yeah, and I get so nervous.
Yeah, and we're both perfectionists and, you know, we want it to go really well. And so it's just so nice when it's just us and that's it.
Oh, totally. I
Probably
agree.
no one will listen to these ones, but that's okay. It makes it so much less intimidating.
We do know that Pam Best is listening. She has decided that she's in charge of telling us.
You mean Pam Booer?
No.
Oh, Pam Best?
Pam Best.
Oh, okay.
At my church, she's like, my favorite episodes, it was just the two of you.
Aww.
And I said, sometimes we just have trouble coming up with what to say. And she's like, can I be in charge of deciding what you're going to, what you guys are going to talk about? And I'm like, yes, please.
Please.
So,
we all have such a hard time coming up with things to talk about.
So this was her idea, this topic
cool.
today.
That's very cool. I love that.
So yeah, shout out to Pam Best.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so we're wrapping up season 3.
How is that possible?
3. I can't really wrap my brain around it. This has been such an incredible season, though. You know, literally, we are only here because the Lord willed it to be so.
Amen.
But just the way that He has ordained all of the guests that we had. I mean, we've had people that I've known but really haven't gotten to work with, like Maggie Jenny and Stephanie Parker, and you know, just a slew of people that are amazing. We had Ash Bowers.
Oh my gosh, that was a great episode.
And Robbie Chevrant from Lone Star.
Yeah.
I mean,
and Jake Johnson.
Yeah. I mean, we just had a huge, wonderful group of people.
Yeah.
And Brandy Wilson was on. I mean, it's just been an incredible season.
Yeah.
And we are so incredibly grateful to all of our season 3 guests. And
I don't know why this just popped into my mind, but I think John Groder's episode was one of my favorites.
Yeah.
It wasn't probably 2 weeks, maybe 3 after we recorded it. I ran into him.
Yes.
And he's from Michigan, and he was in Nashville, and he looked very confused, and he goes, "Oh, that's right, you're from here." I'm like, "Yes,
That's
this is where I live." So that was very nice to run back into him. That was a special episode. He's a fairly spectacular filmmaker.
Oh yeah,
human being.
Yes, and so yeah, it's just been an incredible season.
It was fun.
And we are so blessed to do what we do. And, you know, it's really important for us to acknowledge the privilege that we have to talk about something such as talents and gifts, right? There are people and places in the world where they don't get to do that. Yeah. They're just trying to survive. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, because of the privilege we have, I think it's really important that we're intentional with our talents and gifts, because we're privileged enough to be able to do that.
Right.
And so anyway, yeah, I'm so blessed that we get to do this. It's so much fun. It's a lot of work, but it's so much fun. And you did such a great job of lining up our guests this season. So thank you for doing all of that.
Yeah.
And yeah, we're excited to see what happens next for us. Yeah. So today, you want to tell people what we're talking about?
We're talking about storytelling.
Storytelling, which is kind of how, if you think about it, if you like go all the way back, it's kind of how this came about. It's like you and I wanted to work together and tell stories, and just like that has slowly morphed into telling people's stories and talents and gifts and things like that. So anyway, we love storytelling in all kinds of formats. I mean, I've always been a huge movie fan. It's like that has just always been how I appreciated stories.
Yeah, and I'm a reader.
And you're a reader.
Yeah.
I'm not much of a podcast listener, ironically, but I know that a lot of people are.
Right.
And that's how they like to get their stories in.
It's totally true.
What other mediums? You got TV, obviously kind of similar to movies. But, writing. I love writing. You love writing. We love writing.
Yeah.
That's a good outlet for us for storytelling. And then obviously this is a good outlet. And acting is an outlet that I have for storytelling. Right. Singing.
Yeah.
All of these talents and gifts.
It's so funny. You know, I think probably while film is spectacularly powerful, I think music is probably the most powerful storyteller. That's the only time when your brain is fully engaged in every way.
Yeah.
And I love music. Love the way that tells stories.
Yeah.
Do you remember the story that I used to tell you and your brothers whenever you guys wanted a story at night and I was too busy?
No, you were too busy to tell us a story?
Well, yeah, it would be like, okay, go to bed,
okay.
But I want a story. It's, 9:30 or whatever. And I would say, once upon a time, a long time ago, in a land far, far away, there was a princess named Sarah, and she lived happily ever after. And you would get so mad. And you're like, no, there's got to be more. But yes.
That's very cute.
I would try and build it up really big and then end it quickly.
Yes, that is awesome. I love that. That's very cute.
We also did healing services on you guys too.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. And then I started doing that to Amelia, and she loved it. Anyway, that's a totally separate thing. But yes, that was always fun.
Yeah.
We have been storytellers for a while. I'm trying to think of like the earliest. I mean, theater obviously was a big one for me.
Well, and we would, even if it wasn't our stories that we were writing or coming up with, we were reading other people's stories when we were running your lines.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You've been doing,
theater and stuff forever.
Since 11. So we've been doing this a long time.
Yeah.
I think one of my favorite things that we do though is we'll go see a movie. Like maybe 42.
42 was one, and then The Proposal was another one.
And we leave and we go grab something to eat, and we literally brainstorm the next story.
Yeah.
And we just need to take a computer with us from now on and just
to the movie theater.
Yeah, well, and outline it. Well, we could leave it in the car, but I'm saying to the restaurant, and then just outline it, because there's easily 100 stories that we've come up with.
Yeah,
and we probably only outlined in documented probably 40 of them.
Yeah. Well, one of the best times of us storytelling writing was on our way to New Orleans, or from New Orleans to Baton Rouge, where we wrote Sway.
Yeah.
That was super fun, and just coming up with, kind of that story. And, since then we've both written screenplays. I've written several that will never see the light of day, but that's okay. But, I think you always tell stories, things that you write what you know, right? Oh my gosh, which is so funny, because this one time I was in college and I was taking astronomy. Do you remember this?
Uh-huh.
I was taking astronomy, and I thought that was going to be super easy. Like, okay, the stars. But I got there and the class was so hard. Like just the first day, like the professor was so intense, and the syllabus that he outlined for us I was like, this is not for me. So I dropped it, and my dad called, and he was like, so I heard you dropped astronomy. And I was like, yeah. And he was like, a storyteller dropped astronomy, and I knew what he was saying. Referencing like Star Wars or Star Trek, like the most compelling and successful stories of all time are like set in space. Anyway, it was just, that's a silly side story.
That's your dad, though.
But yes. Anyway, I have no idea where I got that came from. But anyway, yes, we write, you write what you know. That's what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
And so our stories are, I feel like for me, the most recent story that I wrote was Amazing Gracie.
Right.
Which we are in the middle of filming, which I'm so excited about. I can't wait for you guys to see it. And when I wrote that a long time ago. It kind of sat on a shelf for a hot second while they made another movie. And but I've been working on it, since before the pandemic. But
right.
That's
true.
It's been that long. And it kind of was birthed out of my love for my niece, Amelia.
Yeah.
And which, the story does not mirror our lives at all.
Right.
But she's so smart.
And precocious.
And she's very precocious. And I just thought, as the church that I work for that makes movies, they want to build strong families, and what better way to see the love of God through the eyes of a child. And so she kind of was the inspiration, to be honest, for that. And we wrote that. I came up with the idea at the International Christian Film and Music Festival, ICVFF.
Okay.
Something like that.
Is that the one in Florida?
It's the one in Florida.
Okay.
And we were there promoting Fetch Chance, right before the
Yes.
pandemic. This was in 2019.
Okay.
And maybe it was 18. It might have been 18.
I feel it was 18, but sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. So anyway, it's been a really long time. I'm so
Which
glad
is
we're
really
making
funny.
it.
Let me just interject.
Sure.
When you said it's set on the shelf, some people's stories sit on the shelf for 10, 12, 15 years before they get made. So yours has really not been on the shelf all that long,
So
but probably
it
feels
still
that
was
way.
on the shelf.
Yes, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
This
I hear you.
You were able to write it and to be in pre-production in 2021, production in 2022. That's pretty exciting.
Yeah, totally.
All right, keep going.
So, so anyway, that's just kind of where the heart came from, and then the story kind of developed and was inspired by a lot of the 90s, 2000s rom-coms that I've seen and
Yeah.
things like that. And so it's a family comedy, and I'm so excited to share it with you guys. It's about, I guess, should I tell what it's about?
Yeah.
It's about a young woman who has lost her way after the death of her father. She and her mom grieved very differently, something that I think that a lot of people can relate to. And because of the way that they grieved differently, one was like super outward. Lucy, my character, just was really emotional about it. She outwardly grieved, and her mom is just such a very has to be in control of the situation, and so she really stifled her grief and like really kept it in. And Lucy didn't understand why she wasn't grieving with her. It felt like her mom didn't care. And her mom, just kept saying, well, I'm just giving it up to God, which I think a lot of people say. And I think that there's total validation in that. Like, I'm a very faith, like one of my top spiritual gifts is faith.
Right.
So that is totally something I would do. I don't know that I would say it, but I would do that. But that being said, not everybody receives it well.
Right.
And that happens in real life. So anyway, so the mom and the daughter are now estranged. And through another, a year later, another severe accident, her sister dies as well, and leaves her two small children to Lucy, who at this stage in her life is really not a good fit for her for parenting. And so it's just a beautiful story of how Lucy is shown the love of Christ through the child, through this really precocious 6 going on 60 young woman who's really the parent to Lucy. And, Lucy grows up, and it's really a story about reconciliation between a mom and a daughter.
Yeah.
And so that's another, aspect. I think we don't mirror these characters really in any way.
Well, actually, and you're not wrong. And yet, at the same time, whenever it comes to death, I'm usually very pragmatic. So I would probably be a little less emotional.
Whereas I'm going to be on the floor.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think it would ever separate us,
No, totally. But yes, that's fair. I think that dynamic maybe is probably true.
Yeah.
But I didn't base it on us.
Right. Totally.
Like I wanted the juxtaposition, and so I made them as far apart as possible.
Right. We have not experienced
we
anything
haven't.
like in this movie.
Mm-mm. But I will say that, there's so many great films out there about fatherhood. I think that the Kendricks are doing, incredible work with Courageous and Fireproof. Well, Fireproof is about marriage, but it's really from the male perspective.
Right.
And Courageous is about fatherhood. And these movies are incredible. But I really want to see a movie about a mom. Oh, and then Show Me the Father, the documentary that they did.
Yes.
Really incredible work. I just am excited to tell a story about a mom and a daughter,
right,
who get to reconcile and what that looks like. And so, so we're in the middle of filming right now. We're literally, on the tail end. We've got like 3 more days, and I cannot wait to finish and to get editing. I'm going to be editing it as well. And so, just a huge thank you to all of the cast, the crew, Living Word, Micah, just everybody for making this happen. This is my first screenplay to be made outside of us.
Right. And
so I'm just really honored that y'all are doing that, and just super grateful. And
I can't wait.
I know. I cannot wait. I'm so excited. It's going to be awesome. I can't wait to share it with you guys. And so that's Amazing Gracie.
Yeah. That's a great story.
Thanks. It's really sweet, and funny, and it's just
we read each other's everything and multiple times.
Yeah.
And there are scenes in the story, and for me, I'm very visual, but I'm still just reading because I've not seen any footage or anything. But there are scenes that are just so funny that I still laugh out loud.
Oh, I'm so glad.
Which
ones? Tell me.
Oh gosh! Oh, you put me on the spot.
I know. Pick one.
Oh, well, there's a couple that come to mind quickly, but they most of the time revolve around Gracie and her absolute exasperation that Lucy doesn't have her act together.
The one that comes to mind that I thought you were going to say was the car one.
It is the car one.
Yeah. Where Lucy tells Grace to wait in the car, and Grace can't believe she just left a kid alone in a car.
So there's that one, but they're also in the grocery store.
Oh yeah, there's tons of really cute,
and
scenes.
In the library.
Yeah.
And I don't want to give anything away because these are the funny moments.
Yeah,
but I read them. I've read them before, and I know they're coming, but I still laugh out loud.
Yeah,
it's super sweet, super cute.
It's such a cute story. So be sure to
check it out.
Check it out when it comes out. Hopefully, I guess late 2022, early 2023, maybe something like that. Lord willing, yeah. But we'll keep you in the loop. I'm sure we'll do lots of promo for it. So that's Amazing Gracie. That's my most recent big story thing.
Well, so one of the things that Pam wanted us to talk about today when we're talking about storytelling, if this is okay to transition now.
Sure.
Is, oh my gosh, talk about on the shelf. I mean, this has been at least 10 years, maybe more. I started a blog. I don't even know what I started.
It was a blog. Don't take credit away. It was a blog.
And that's fine. But, I vacillated on the name, and I changed all this stuff. It's all in development. But it was called The What If Mom. And that just didn't, as it started to develop, that just didn't really fit. The What If Mom was me, and it was that idea that I just needed to be prepared for any and all eventualities, Well, what if this happens? Then I've got this. And what if this happens? And I got this. And I probably did that fairly well, actually.
It's probably why you have such anxiety.
Well, yeah, maybe that too.
Now that I'm thinking about it.
Well, it's, for any situation that might come up, I wanted to be prepared.
Yeah.
And, and there were situations I was prepared for that I didn't really need to be prepared for. Like,
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Laura Lampley was giving away a backpack, I think. I don't remember the story exactly, but I was like, "Oh, I might need that someday." Oh, no. It was a friend of Jesse's. Was just going to throw it away. I'm like, "Don't throw that backpack away." So of course, I kept it. And then I feel like Lauren was going on a missions trip. That's what it was. And she put on Facebook, "I need a backpack." And I'm like,
"I have one.
For such a time as this, I'm ready." And it was
super funny.
And it was a super cute backpack. And she's like, "Oh my gosh, I can't," anyway, it was awesome. And I loved being prepared for that. So the payoff probably doesn't quite outweigh
the anxiety.
The anxiety, but nevertheless. Anyway.
No, I love that about you. And I think, I want to give credit to Grandma Sharon, who is like,
oh yeah,
the most prepared for every situation. And I love that about her. So I think it's a quality that I'm happy that you also possess.
Yes, thank you. Well, yeah, if I can just tone it down, I guess. Well, anyway, so
out of that, don't let it cause you anxiety.
Yeah, out of that kind of came some storytelling that I was doing about the family and about our family. And I had read that the Native Americans in America do a great job of passing down stories from one generation to the next to just to remember their heritage and that kind of thing. And I had read was it was called Tribal Tales, and that just really resonated with me. I was like, that's what I want to do. I want to write these things down and pass them on to the next generation.
Yeah.
And while you and your brothers might not be as interested in it, I'm hoping that the grandkids might be.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's a funny story about my mom, or that's a funny story about my dad, and so I just kind of racked my brain. Anytime something would come up, I would write down, just enough words to remind me of what it was, and then I would write it.
Yeah.
So I've probably done this with maybe, I should probably count 15 to 20 of the stories of us growing up. So if it's okay with you,
please,
at Pam's a suggestion.
I love it. Thank you, Pam.
I wrote this down. So one of the first ones was I'm having a thick time.
Which I still say to this day. And now Nick says it too.
Really?
Yep. So congratulations on passing it down. It worked.
So I'm having a thick time was born out of, I was in grad school at Azusa Pacific University, and I had one of the best professors, maybe the best professor I've ever had, which I need to find out what his name was because I need to give credit where credit's due. And I just don't remember because it was so long ago. And he was talking about living very...
living life to the fullest?
Yeah, to the fullest, but also very intentionally.
Sure.
Right? And that was before that was a thing.
Yeah.
Right. It was everything he would say was very thought provoking. And he was talking about living life to the fullest. And he used the idea of a tornado, like when life's going great, you're at the top and you're having fun, but there are times when it gets tough and it's
windy and debris
very
filled.
windy and hard sometimes. But when you're in the, just be paying attention to that it's cyclical, right?
Yeah.
That will come back around. Good times, tough times, good times. And he called it the thick of the storm or something like that. And so I just kind of latched onto that word. And so, when you guys were little, I would be like, if we were at the park or whatever, are you having a thick time? And I'm sure everybody thought I was out of my mind. But it resonated with me.
Yeah,
from when he said it. And it resonated with you guys, at least you especially. So one of my favorite stories about this is we were sledding in Big Bear one winter, and there was snow everywhere.
Well, we were on like the side of the road, weren't we?
We were at a park.
Oh, okay.
But you were little.
Yeah.
So I don't know how much exactly you remember of this whole thing, but it was the thing where the kids, and there were hundreds of kids at this park, were going up around one tree and then getting it to the top, and you had to bring your own sled, of course, and then sledding down, and it was long. I mean, it was probably maybe a tenth of a mile down this hill.
Wow.
I mean, you were flying by the time you got to the bottom.
Cute.
You and Bo were having a blast. Jesse was unhappy.
He hates the
He
snow.
hates snow. I mean, he probably does it now, but
Right,
at the time, I mean, he would just stand frozen.
I remember
He wouldn't move.
he's like, don't touch me.
Yes, it was
Don't touch me.
so cute in his little snowsuit.
Yes.
Anyway, it was time to go,
Okay.
and everyone was like, you and Bo were like, oh, I want to keep going, and I don't remember why. I don't remember where we were going next or whatever, but it was like, okay, one more run, and you get to the top and you get on your sled and you're coming down. You're about halfway down, and we're near you where the halfway mark is, and you really didn't want to go, and you yelled, "But Mom, I'm having such a thick time!" And you flew by us. It was so sweet and so cute. I died laughing.
Cute.
Yeah.
I wish I was that cute still.
Oh, you are. You're adorable. But anyway, it was just so funny because I couldn't have prompted you to say that.
Right.
But that's what was in your cute little brain at the time.
I love that.
I'm talking about, you're like 6
Right.
or 7. So
Well, that's what this podcast is, a thick time.
it is. Amen to that. And just this encouragement to people to be intentional and to live thick and to think in terms of blessings.
Yeah.
We just take stuff for granted so often. I'm preaching to me. I'm
Yeah.
really preaching to me right now.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's one. I'm having a thick time. Another story I wrote about you.
I hate this story.
You do.
I'm a better ball player than this, but go ahead.
You turned 2, babe.
I'm just saying I'm a better
Okay.
ball player.
Well, I've actually told this story. I mean, very recently, like Sunday at church. I think it was to Mike Dunn. Sorry, Mike. Poor Mike got the entire story. His daughter's a softball player. So
Okay. So this is a softball story.
it is. So you played softball since the time you were 4. And which you supposed to still be doing that, but some acting thing took over.
You want me to still be playing softball
Yes,
at 32? Okay.
I'm kidding. So, actually, you probably technically are. Whenever Jesse has a new league, you'll be playing.
Right.
So we have moved to Tennessee. Again, you're probably 7 or 8-ish. And you're on a travel ball team. I mean, your mother is out of her mind.
It's true.
Why would I be paying money for you to play on a travel ball team at 7? Heavens, Diane. Just whatever's wrong with her. So anyway, we'll move on. But we are in Chattanooga, which is so weird that you
That's
live here
weird.
now. And it was snowing. I mean, it's like March, and there's snow on the ground, and it is snowing. We are freezing. It's probably the second most cold I've ever been. And that's so weird that there's a first. You were playing third. It's the middle of the game. I have no idea who's winning. I have no idea who's losing. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't.
You guys are on defense. And
obviously, I'm at third.
Oh, that's true. Good point. And there's runners at first and second. How I remember these details. It's so funny.
Well, there had to be somebody at first and second for this story to happen.
Well, I'm just telling the listeners.
Yes. Okay.
I'm setting the stage. No outs. Little girl gets up and she hits a line drive. Can't imagine it was too hard because she's 7 or 8, but she hits a line drive to you and you catch it. And, we all cheer and that's all great. Well, the cute little runner from second is running to third and she doesn't know she has to tag up. Right. So she gets to third and you kind of look at her like,
what are you doing?
Yeah, duh.
So I tag.
So you tag her. 2 outs.
Everybody's
happy.
Screaming bloody murder.
That is true.
At me.
Yes. And
I was devastated.
And you have no idea why. So the place erupts on our side and you're on third and our stands are on that side. So we're 15 feet from you. Right. And all of the parents, not me, are screaming at you. What they wanted you to do is that the runner from first
didn't tag up.
Right.
And so I could throw it to first to get a triple play.
Right. Unassisted. Well, no, it would have been assisted. But you could have also run to second, but then it would be unassisted. Tagged her.
They could have. But everybody was yelling at me.
And you had no idea why.
And because it was like happy that I got a double play, and then it just turned. And it was like, yeah. And then everybody was so mad.
Yeah. And they weren't mad at all, right?
I know, but they just were screaming.
Throw it to first.
Right.
Yeah,
but everyone,
whatever.
But there's 30 parents screaming at. I'm not going to be able to discern what's happening.
It's so funny. It's so true. Anyway, so.
I would have done it.
Yes, when you were older, that would have been second nature. But again, so the coach finally gets the little girl's attention and she runs back, so she's safe. Next play, there's an out made and the inning's over and you come over and you're on the verge of tears. And fortunately I was on the end, so you didn't have to come find me in the middle of the crowd.
Right.
And I mean, your tears are pooling in your eyes and I can just see you're very upset and you're like, Mommy, why is everybody yelling at me?
Poor Sarah.
I know. Well, and and I said, first of all, do you understand what happened? Do you understand that you made a double play? You got 2 outs all by yourself. And you go, yeah, but everybody's yelling at me, And by this time, all of the parents are listening. And I said, well, what happened? And I told you about there was a runner and you could have gotten around. It would have been 3 outs. And everybody just wanted you to throw it to first. But
it's okay.
But it's okay. It's totally fine. Yes.
Yeah.
You did a great job. You can imagine me saying, only positive. Oh, yes. you got this.
Totally.
And I said, are you okay? And then the tears just, the floodgates
which has
opened.
Not left me. Anytime anybody asks me if I'm okay, I'm probably going to start crying. But that's fine.
That's probably true. And you were sobbing. You can hardly catch your breath. It's so sweet and so cute. So I hug you and I hold you an extra second or two just to make sure, And I pulled back and I said, Sarah. Yes, Mommy. And I said, what does Tom Hanks always say? There's no crying in baseball. And everybody erupts in laughter. It was so funny. And I'm like, yep. I said, you've got this. And then you went and had a great rest of your game and it was fine.
So cute. I hope Tom Hanks hears this. What does Tom Hanks always say?
Well, of course, he's only said it once.
Right.
We'll hashtag him on this episode.
Fair. I love it.
Anyway, it was just so sweet. And you ran back out and I think you were up to bat. I think the coach was saying, we need her to come back, please. Yeah. Please. She's on deck. Anyway, it was very sweet. So that's another favorite story of yours. And then there's another one that, sorry, I'm going to tell you.
Well, this is all about me. This episode was supposed to be about you.
Well, but just about the story that I am going to tell eventually. I just have one more of you.
That's fine.
And actually, we've told this one.
Yeah.
We've told this one before. And this is when Sarah, oh my gosh, I'm telling you, your dad and I had no idea until this happened. The middle school, you were in elementary school, but the middle school, you went to a K through 8, was doing a play. They were doing Tom Sawyer. And 5th and 6th graders could audition, but they couldn't get any major roles. They were all saved for the 7th and 8th graders. Was it a musical?
Yeah. The Music Man. No, it was Aunt Polly. So just kidding. Not The Music Man.
But there was
Tom Sawyer.
Yeah, but there was one song that Becky Thatcher sings. That's what it was. So it's not really a musical. And of course, I want you to try out for Becky Thatcher. Well, knowing, of course, you can't get it. But, I don't think the way that you think. I think in terms of what seems to be the funnest, role or whatever. And you think in terms of what's the most interesting and what you can do with the character and all this kind of stuff. And I didn't know that about you, of course.
Right.
So annoying that I'm so not included. I'm not an actress. So anyway, so you audition and you're like, I'm auditioning for Aunt Polly. And I'm like, whatever. And you got it. We were shocked. But apparently, that wasn't really a role that anybody else really wanted, which was great because they let a fifth grader have it, and you probably knocked it out of the park with your audition. So you have a fairly major role in this as just a little tyke.
Yeah.
And oh my gosh, the physical comedy, it was insane. You threw Tom to the ground. You're wrestling with him. You yank a tooth out, not literally, but figuratively.
No, it's not figurative. It's a real tooth, but fakely.
Yes.
Theatrically.
But you know what I'm saying? It was like, and I'm looking at your dad going, oh no. I just could see
Dad's never told this story to me. Did he have the same reaction?
Well,
I mean, okay, for Dad.
It's your dad.
Right.
I'm sure in his mind, of course.
Oh, okay.
Right? You can do no wrong with him except not become a doctor, but
whatever.
I know.
Thanks.
I think he bought you 3 medical kits.
I know.
He really, really wanted you to go to med school. I'm just kidding.
I know.
But anyway, no, I'm sure he just sat there going, well, of course, she's good at this too. In his mind, you can do no wrong. So anyway, but yes, that was, it wasn't, you didn't give up softball at that moment or sports together. You continued to play.
Oh, yeah.
All through high school, which was great. But it was just that idea of, oh my gosh. But Aunt Polly was, for us, in my mind, a huge turning point.
Well, yeah.
Where you were literally in a play.
From then on till I was
You were in a play
21.
nonstop.
Yeah.
I mean
10 years.
Three seasons, 3 or 4 shows every year for the next 10 years.
Yeah. It's a good life.
Because of Aunt Polly.
Because of Aunt Polly.
Oh my gosh, I can't even.
Don't get emotional.
I am.
I can tell. No, I love that story because I think, aside from the acting part and yes, it was amazing. That's not what I'm saying. I think that it's such that was a God moment, right? That was God revealing to you the plans that he had for me.
Yeah.
And so that's what to me makes that special. And when you're intentional about that early on, imagine if you had this idea of training up a child back then, you might have discovered it earlier, but you discovered it exactly when God wanted you to. So that's great. We love that.
Yeah.
But, I don't know. I give God glory for that because only he could have revealed that to you.
Right.
You know what I mean?
It was just crazy. You just think your kid.
Until you don't.
Well, I mean, there was things that you did that I should have been apparently paying attention to because I was somewhat cognizant of training up a child at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, really, the first time I ever had that thought was when I was 16.
Okay.
I really want as a parent, I want to be paying attention to what my kids are.
Yeah. Well, and we were really good at baseball and softball.
Well, that's true.
You totally were in tune with that. And you didn't make me become a doctor like Dad did.
Oh, that's true. Well, you would have been a decent doctor, so that's not the end of the world. But anyway, it's just funny that that's not the direction you were headed. But just that idea of paying attention. You used to we had a massive video camera, and you would walk around interviewing people like you were a TV news reporter, and just pretending because it wasn't on.
Right.
Actually, I think there were times when it was on. And your grandparents would just crack up at that. They just thought that was the cutest thing. So I should have been paying closer
I'm
attention.
pretty cute.
Yeah. Well,
all right. Enough about me. What's another story?
Well, so this is the last one I'll tell. And so here's the thing. When I tell a story, not very often, on rare occasions.
The opposite. And we're off to a good start.
I don't remember the exact way it happened. And Billy, your dad, always says that my version of it is way better than the truth.
Yes. 100%.
So I tell this story, and I think I'm pretty accurate, but I do hate that someday somebody might come up and go, that's not exactly what happened.
Well, it might be after this podcast.
Even it might be. And now I've told it a ton of times in front of Dad, and he was there, and he's never corrected me yet. So hopefully it's right. So if I'm telling this a little off, I mean, it was a very long time ago.
Okay.
I mean,
go for it.
Decades ago. But this is the story that Pam wanted to hear. So I called it Too Late Again on the blog. And I was in college, and so was your father. And we were in a band together. This is actually, I think, technically before we were dating. And we were at a very, and I can't emphasize very, conservative enough.
Yeah.
I mean, holy Toledo. And, oh my gosh. Sorry, this is bringing back such memories. So they had a premier, whatever that means, music group. And it was singers and the full band, but like it also included brass. So trumpets and
all kinds
trombones
of things.
And all that kind of stuff. I mean, I think all together there was like 20 or 30 people in this group, and it traveled around the entire nation. And this is early 80s. Sorry, I'm massively dating myself. And I wanted to be in that group. Oh my gosh, I wanted to be in that group. And because they had come to California, even though they were in another state. I'm trying really hard not to
reveal the state
or the school. Okay. No, I have to be really, really careful. So I'm now 17, and I've decided to go to this college 2,000 miles away to be in this group. And
so it's not in California.
Okay.
Just kidding.
We've narrowed it down. So, and I was a singer.
Yeah.
That's not really, I mean, I sang in church, and I was in groups, and I was in choir in school, and, it's not like that's a surprise. So I was a singer, and so I was going to try out for this group. Never once did it dawn on me I wouldn't make it, which it's not an arrogance thing. I'm an idiot.
Okay.
It wasn't like, oh my gosh.
Never heard you say that before.
It wasn't like, oh my gosh, I'm so good. It was like, that's why I'm going there. Why wouldn't that work?
Right.
Right. It was just, I had not thought
and
this.
Like me going to Catawba and like not studying theater. Doesn't make sense.
Well, that's true. Was that a sports jab?
No. Kind of. Anyway.
Yeah, that's funny. So I get there a week or two before school starts for auditions. Oh my gosh. I'm just not the sharpest tool in the shed. There are 4 women spots on this group. 3 are taken by women who were in the group last year. You automatically make it to the next year if you don't mess up, right?
Right.
Of course.
Right.
And they're seniors.
Right.
It's their senior year. And I'm a little stinking freshman. I'm telling you, I just hadn't thought this through. So there's one open spot, and there are probably 70 girls there auditioning for this.
Jeez.
And I'm like, still...
I got this.
It's
in the bag.
I'm not going to make this. I just still... Anyway, so first round of auditions. Second round. We did like 8.
Wow.
Every time you have to go to the door and see if your name is still on the list.
Oh, gosh.
It was, and I just kept... And every day was, and I have run out of songs by this point that I've prepared.
Right.
And I don't remember if I just got new songs or just redid old ones. And what I need to say here is that there was a couple that's on the judging panel for this group that will play into the story later, but that my mom studied under years ago at San Jose.
You almost said 100 years ago. Okay.
Well, I was exaggerating.
Yes.
But many years before. So they're going to come back into the story later. But anyway, so I felt like I did have 2 people that I kind of knew. I mean, I'd introduced myself, and they loved Mom, and they knew her, they remembered her, that kind of thing. So anyway, we're down to the last day of auditions, and I'm still in it. It still hasn't dawned on me that I'm not going to make this group. I'm the dumbest.
Well, you were making it.
You're right. It just kept going. Right. We're down to 3 girls. And so we get into a room, and I guess we finally introduce ourselves or whatever, because you don't really talk to any of the people auditioning. At least at this point, we weren't. One of the girls is a senior who's best friends with the other 3 girls.
Well, yeah.
And this is her 4th time to try out.
Jeez.
Guess what?
She got it.
Yeah, she made it. But I think maybe at that point I was like, oh.
Maybe it has nothing to do with my singing ability. Maybe there's some politics behind this.
Well, and that's okay.
They're totally okay.
I would do the same thing, right? We would cast that girl in that role,
right.
Depending on the situation. But anyway, so I don't make it. After 8 rounds of auditions.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh. To say I was disappointed
is an understatement.
Understatement of the century for me. So I'm going back to my dorm going, why am I here? I have traveled 2,000 miles for this, which I mean, that's a whole episode in and of itself
Sure.
on God's plan for us and
Yeah.
praying for his will instead of ours. Anyway, I'm about to leave.
Yeah.
To go back home and quit school. I'm that upset.
Yeah.
So, I don't remember why I was in the music office, but I was in the music office, and that couple was there that my mom knew, that had taught my mom. And they said, we have an opening day picnic for our campus next Saturday. Would you be willing to sing? And I said, yes, fine. I mean, I was like, did not care. Anyway, so I did. I sang. And actually, funny coincidence, I did an Amy Grant song, or that's what I covered. And these three guys, I can't remember if it's 3 or 4, but I just remember 3, came up to me afterwards and they're like, that was really good. We're looking for a female lead singer for our band. And I was like, whatever. I mean, I so didn't care. I'm like, yeah, I'll do it. Whatever. I mean,
Yeah.
anyway.
Bless your heart.
Yeah. So I started going to practices, and it was a weird, odd mix of people. I mean, I think they would even tell you that. But whatever we were doing, we were kind of doing right, because we signed up with the music office, and then they send you out to different churches on weekends to do the music in small churches that, like, they'll send you out with a pastor or a Bible student to churches that are so small they don't have a pastor. And then we would help lead worship and that kind of stuff. And I talked to the music secretary at one point. She's like, we get more requests for you guys than anybody. I'm like, are you kidding?
That's funny.
I mean, because we're so not, we're not the norm. We're,
Yeah.
especially your father is trying to break every rule he can possibly break to see how far he can go.
Right.
So we're not your standard normal folks, right? And we're doing, like I said, Amy Grant was just like so new and trendy and, that whole thing. And we were just doing more upbeat stuff. Anyway, there were no hymns involved. I mean, nothing against hymns.
Right.
But so one day I'm walking by the music office, and the music secretary, who I've become friends with, she was so sweet. She said, hey, we've had a cancellation for chapel tomorrow. Do you guys want to play? Okay. I mean, at this point, I still don't care very much about what's going on in life, because I just can't believe that I'm all the way there for this group that I didn't make. And I'm like, yeah, that's fine, whatever. So we get the next morning, we get up, we go and we play chapel, and we did Amy Grant's Too Late. And I mean, back then it was a rockin' song, but now it's fairly pretty mellow.
Yeah.
But at the time, for the, in the Midwest, that gave a little bit of a clue away. It was apparently very offensive. So we crushed it. We're doing great. We've left the stage. We're coming around. Some friends have stayed at the seats, and, we could hear the applause. It was, apparently
thunderous.
Well, I don't know about that, but it was pretty good. So we come in, we sit down, and it gets absolutely silent. And the professor who's leading the chapel service is like, I cannot believe that you guys are clapping for this. This reminds me of Alice Cooper, blah, 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 blah. And he's just going on and on and on. And at the time, Alice Cooper had just played a concert in this town. And he was, that was very antithesis of Christianity at the time.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're stunned. We're shocked. We can't move. I can't breathe. I mean, this guy is just annihilating us like we are the devil incarnate. And I'm me, I'm a rule follower.
Yeah.
Right. So anyway, chapel finishes, and we leave, I guess, go to class. I don't know what we did, but I eventually went to the music office, and she's like, and they're talking about kicking us out of school. Right. Because we played.
Didn't she call you in and you thought that that's what was going to happen?
Maybe that's what it was. But we sang an Amy Grant song.
I know.
People. Yeah. Anyway. So she calls us in, and I did. You're right. I'm sure that I thought we were going to get kicked out, and she's like, "This is my fault." She said, "We have all these rules that you guys broke, but I never gave you the rules."
Right.
And I'm like, "Okay,
that's important."
Things like electric guitar is not allowed on stage.
Right.
I mean, your dad's killing it.
Wasn't one of those that you couldn't wear pants?
Well, but I wasn't wearing pants, so yes. Okay. But they have that rule, like to Clash, women can't wear pants.
Right.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Anyway, so. Thank the Lord.
Literally.
Yes. The lady was like, this is my fault. The music department was completely behind her. They made that guy apologize to us. And
Wow.
and so it was done. So we survived.
Jeez,
Yeah.
it's so exciting though. And then you got married.
I did. There's a little bit more to the story.
Oh, okay.
If we have
Yeah.
1 more minute. So years later, like 15 or
yes.
20, I am now director of admissions. I'm now director of admissions at Pacific Christian College. Oh my gosh, probably shouldn't have said that, but that's all right. And
You said it before. It's okay.
oh, did I? Okay. So I'm at a conference in St. Louis, I think, and I'm working my booth and trying to get people to go to kids go to college there, that kind of thing. And this school that Dad and I met at was there as well. So I just kind of on a break, I just kind of meander over there, and I'm just kind of checking things out. And there's a very nice young man that is working the booth. Hey, can I help you? Do you have some questions? And I said, well, no, not really. I said, I'm actually with Pacific Christian. And, oh, yeah, that's a great school too. Yeah. And I said, and I actually went here for 1 semester. And he said, really? I said, it was a very long time ago. I said, probably before you were born. And, just making some kind of joke. And he said, oh, that's, what year was it? And I said, well, it was the fall of 81. He goes, oh, that was an interesting year. And I'm thinking, what?
What is he talking about?
Yeah. So he says, oh, that was an interesting year. And I'm thinking, what is he talking about? And he goes, well, isn't that the year that Tony Campolo spoke in chapel? And I was like, well, yes. I said, I wasn't there, but I heard about it. He said, he goes, that was crazy. And I said, yes, it was. And what had happened is that Tony Campolo loves to ruffle feathers. And he said a bad word. Can I have permission to say a bad word?
Yes.
Okay.
Warning.
Yes. He said, you're building a $2 million building and there's children starving in Ethiopia or wherever he said. He said, and you're more concerned. He goes, and you don't even give a shit about it. He goes, you're more concerned that I just said shit in your chapel service than you are about those starving children. And I'm telling you,
Wow.
the place, I mean, that was nothing like what, he blew the place apart.
Yeah.
I believe he was never asked back again.
I'm sure.
Anyway, so this kid's reminding me of this
right.
whole story, and I'm
Yeah.
like, yes, that was the year. And he goes, have you heard about the girl who sang in chapel with her band, and they did an Amy Grant song with electric guitar? And I can't breathe. I'm like, what? And he goes, yeah. He goes, I think that was in the first semester. I said,
How do you know this?
I'm like, what? I couldn't even process that. And I said, people are still talking about that? I said, I don't think that was that big of a deal. And he goes, oh, no, it's a huge deal. He goes, they almost got kicked out. He said, but the music department made the professor apologize. He said they even likened them to Alice Cooper. And I'm like, I mean, I could not believe that I was having this conversation. So I said to the kid, I said, you are not going to believe this. I said, I'm that girl. And the guitar player is my husband. He goes, are you kidding me? He goes, what's your name? So I said, well, it's, Diane LeJeune. I said, but at the time it was Diane Carter. He goes, hold on a second. He calls everybody who's from the school over to meet me. And I'm like, how is it possible they are still talking about that? I knew it was controversial at the time.
That's
but anyway,
awesome.
So yeah.
Crazy.
So that's another story that I wrote down. And I know you've talked about, I've got to make that into a movie someday.
I just love that. I think that's awesome. It's fantastic. And there's so many other stories that we want to pass down
Yeah.
through generations. But it's always fun to just reflect. And, I'm always inspired by you. I never do this because I'm terrible, but I've been inspired by you to like keep journals and like try to remember funny things and write them down so I don't forget them.
Yeah.
And as kids come into play, I'll do that better. But
Yeah.
I love how intentional you've been about, remembering stories that just make our family,
Right.
things like that. And
No, and we have talked about the ones that I've written down about you and I, but there's plenty about your brothers as well. So anyway, that's all for today.
Yes, we just wanted to have a nice, fun chat about some stories and share a little bit about us with you guys.
Yeah.
And
we are going to take a couple of weeks break.
yes, so this is the end of season 3, which is crazy.
I know.
We always take a break for 4th of July. We'll take 2 weeks off, and then we'll be back with season 4.
I know.
What?
I know. It's
I can't
insane.
even.
Yeah.
I can't believe it. And our 100th episode will be
Next season,
which is just crazy. That's insane. But you guys, we're so grateful. Happy 4th of July. Hope you guys have a wonderful 4th weekend. And be on the lookout for Amazing Gracie. throw on in
my
there.
gosh,
Yes,
cannot wait.
Cannot wait. And we love you guys, and we will see you next time.
For more information on Project Brickworks, visit us online at projectbrickworks.org. Subscribe to our newsletter or text BRICK to 55498 to get the latest news and updates. We love y'all. Be blessed, and we'll see you next time.